Jude, thank you very much for catching up and hanging out with us. So obviously, head of development, in charge of what can sometimes be seen as the most mythical department in any agency.
Absolutely.
So I thought it'd be really cool if we've had a few chats ourselves, and I thought it'd be cool to bring it into more of an open forum so other people can kind of hear and learn about some of the ways that we think about development, which is a little bit different. So we were just touching then on how people see development. They see it as almost sometimes a necessity. It's a need or it's a requirement, but actually it's far bigger than that. It's an opportunity. So how do you see development in business?
Yeah, well, exactly that. Is some people see it as a need. Some people see it as an arcane art. Like just we throw money down there and what comes back. I see it as the innovation area of a business, almost like the the area that's going to drive the next big success in a business. So, you do a lot of things to stabilize and to grow your current business, but development allows you to take on new opportunities, to do new things, to explore new areas. And of course, I see it as a bit of magic, it's the little bit of pizzazz, the little bit of extra that you can do in your business.
It's so true. I mean, I think the thing that blows me away is we look at all companies now, and every time you hear about some kind of crazy innovation or disruptive thing that's happening, at the core of it, there's some new technology. And really, it's a software solution that's allowed that to come to fruition. I mean, we could all harp on about the big ones, and we all do, which is the Facebook, the Airbnb, and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's all based on a platform of technology that's now available, which maybe 20 years ago, that technology wasn't as accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the amazing thing is, well, you've got the really big players who have these, massive worldwide, everyone knows them, Uber, Facebook, all of that. You've also got that innovation happening in thousands of small businesses. And in fact, your competitor, if you're running a business, your competitor probably is doing that innovation. They're trying to do something new. They've got coders building something new. They're trying to innovate and stay ahead of you. So this kind of, world changing, it doesn't have to disrupt every market, but it might disrupt your market. And that's, and that's the power of having developers and having this kind of team.
That leads on to the next question and what we were touching on before. So how do we stay ahead of that? How do we stop that from being the competitors doing, and how is it that we as a business owner or a business organization can be the ones developing that innovation?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you've got to have the idea first. You've got to identify the area that you can, innovate in. It's no good. You don't want to go out there without a plan and without a smart plan. You've got to put something together first. But the next step is putting together an innovation budget. And that's something that a lot of businesses don't have. They have a marketing budget, they probably have a materials budget, they have a staffing budget, but an innovation budget is something that new and successful disruptive businesses are doing. They put money aside to say, how are we going to do things better next year? How are we going to automate more? How are we going to lead and be successful?
It's a really cool way of thinking, because one of the challenges I know that we probably have both seen when we have someone who comes to us with a good idea, and they might be a marketing manager, or they might be head of technology, or whatever they are in their business. It could be just a salesperson who's being tasked with the job. That sounds all right, Frank. Go and see how much that's going to cost. And then as soon as the budget comes up, well, there is no budget available for it. So actually, even just having that opportunity to have a free budget to innovate, and then, well, what did that bring in terms of success the year after, and then measure the success of that budget.
Exactly right. And without kind of outlining that from the start, you have to have a champion in your business otherwise who's coming up with ideas and able to get them through to management, through to the board, wherever they need to get. And it relies on kind of a hero to emerge in a business to be disruptive. But if you have an innovation budget, if you have some idea as a business, we want to do this, it's in our strategic plan, we're going to do this, then it drives itself. It starts to become a self-motivating force because there's money there, and money drives the business,
So are there some maybe key types of development that are usually the things that are focused around, this innovation or this development of new ideas? I mean, obviously there's apps and things, but what are the accessible software solutions for business?
So there's a few different categories of innovation that every business will look at. Of course, there's like cost savings. So how do we automate things that we're doing over and over again? Like how do we make them more efficient? There's bringing in more leads. So how do we innovate in a way that brings us in more sales? sales and in more inquiries, and that overlaps with marketing a bit and ties into like websites and things.
Yep.
And then there's, I suppose, disruption. So how do we do things really differently? How do we do something that everyone else in the market's doing, but do it in a way that's going to change the game? And that's where, you know, often a mobile app or an automated website or something else will come in, and a platform will come in, you know, and be built to lead that kind of charge.
If someone's like, I'm ready, I've got some ideas, or I want to start coming up with ideas, like a good starting point for them would be looking at, well, potentially there's some like time-saving systems and technology that can be used to remove repetitive tasks. Basically save time. Then everyone has access to a website. There's obviously potential development innovation to generate more leads, more cash. And then on top of that, we've then looking at maybe software as a service or an application or that sort of type thing as well. So when it comes to building, let's say, an app, because I know it's a hot topic and everyone's like always got an idea for an app. Even in a business, people have got an idea of how they can actually make their interactions with their customers easier or better or smoother through an app. What sort of checks and measures, what thinking and thought process do you go through when you're starting that road to, do I create an app or not?
The first one is always, has it been done before? And then, you know, like, so there's a first mover advantage in building an app, in that the first person who does it has an advantage, but it's not a game changing advantage. So you've got Uber and then you've got Lyft. You know, there's almost always a complementary business in that kind of disruptive framework. But also there's some advantage to being, so if someone's done it before, it doesn't mean don't do it, because there's some advantage to coming in second and doing it better, and you know, doing it where someone hasn't done it before. But also, there's an opportunity to take some things off the shelf. So rather than building everything from scratch, you're able to go, oh, I'll take this piece and I'll take this piece and I'll take this piece, and maybe, you know, outclass or outpace the competition who's building it all from scratch. So there's some thinking you've got to go in there.
So check to see whether it exists or not to start with.
Yes, check whether it exists. Do it, then evaluate what value it's going to return to your business. And that's really hard to do, because you've got kind of best case scenario, everything's automated, you know, no one has to come to work and we make $1 million an hour. You know, that's the innovation gold standard. And then you've got a reality, and right down the bottom you've got, you know, it doesn't work and we've thrown the money against the wall and something hasn't happened, or we've thrown the development against the wall and we haven't got what we've achieved. And so it's a whole spectrum. And what you need to do is you need to have, all right, down from our best case, what's our realistic case, you know, and for that you need to consult with people who have done it before, developers, you know, analysts, other people in similar market spaces, so that you can get an idea of, if we build this app, you know, how could it work? And the third thing you need to do is some usability testing or some market testing. So for this, you might even just run a Facebook or an AdWords campaign. You know, see if we had this app already, would people be buying it? Would people be using it? Would they be signing up? And for that, you might just do a little.
See whether there's actually the demand for the service or the app that you're putting out.
If you promote it, I mean, we've done that before, which is like a guerrilla marketing campaign. You take your app idea, you make a landing page for it, you sell it first, and if people sign up, then you go ahead and building it. Otherwise, you know, if we advertise this and no one signs up to, you know, our fake marketplace, you don't do that ever under your business name.
But there's still you can measure engagement. So even in this case, people like, you know, signing up to, you know, pre-registrations or whatever it might be, or so you can at least gauge interest in the application or the idea.
And sometimes people have a real fear about, I don't want to put my idea out there because I don't want someone to steal it. But the secret sauce in most apps is your business knowledge, and it's your knowledge of how to innovate. It's not the idea, it's not the idea itself.
It's not the benefit that the consumer is going to be receiving. It's actually how it's then calculated behind the scenes and it's actually put together is where the IP or the idea
exactly
is.
Right. And again, that kind of harks back to why you can have competing apps with similar ideas or similar functionality that have completely different success outcomes. Because it comes down to, how well was it built, and hopefully, someone like me has built it and it does a good job. What's the secret sauce? So what's the industry inside knowledge or the wisdom behind it? And then, of course, how is it marketed and how is it released into the marketplace?